Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1 on this here channel. For this video, we are going to do a Q&A. I have posted a thread to my forum that basically says, if you want to ask me something that's not an automotive question and you want to know something a little more about Eric the Car Guy or just me in general, feel free to ask away. I did that a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to read through those questions now and answer to them. If you had a question, I will answer it now. We will start out with Jeffrey. And Jeffrey asks, not automotive? That leaves a lot of room to be personally nosy. Okay, so how does the YouTube sponsor / advertising thing work and how lucrative is it? And if that's too ticklish, how do you feel about your art and music background and how do they help you today? Do they give you that think outside the box perspective to create Eric the Car Guy? Jeffrey, those are really good questions, and actually there's several there. So why don't we start with the YouTube sponsor / advertising thing. As it is now, after 4 years of working at Eric the Car Guy, I am now at a place where I make just as much money now as I did when I topped out as a technician. So before I left the automotive field, well, even before that, when I was fired from my original job, I was like top level technician, been there for 8 years, and I think I was getting like 26 an hour or something like that. That and the equivalent now, the net from now, is virtually identical. So as far as how I'm doing, awesome. I mean, it's really great to be able to do this. And the best thing about Eric the Car Guy is as far as who pays for it, it's not the people who necessarily benefit, it's the advertisers that are paying for it. So those ads that you watch before you watch one of my videos or those little streaming things that may be down there now, those are the things that pay my bills. And the more popular my channel gets, the more weight those ads carry, the more views and that kind of thing. That's the game. It's really a numbers game. And it was, I've got to admit, a complete and total shot in the dark. When I started Eric the Car Guy, I had hopes that it would one day pay off, and I'm so grateful that it did. I'm really grateful to all of you fans out there watching because you basically made it happen, and the fact that you're watching and engaged means that I get a paycheck. So yay, thank you for that. As far as the art and music background, they help a great deal because as far as the music side of things go, when you're posting videos to YouTube, if you use any kind of copyrighted material whatsoever, in particular music, even if it's something that you got out of a program, like I use music out of my editing software from time to time, and sometimes that sends up red flags with YouTube, and then they won't monetize my video. So going back to that income thing means that they won't run ads on my video because they feel there's copyrighted material there. There's a couple of videos out there that are like that with me, and it's not copyrighted stuff, it's stuff that I got out of my editing software, yet it still trips their radar. So as far as my music background goes, whenever possible, I try to use music that is my own, that is original, so that I don't have to worry about that copyright stuff. And another thing you'll notice about a lot of my videos is I don't often use music in them. And when I do, it's very sparse. And that's the reason why, is because I don't want the YouTube people to come in and pull my video or not put advertising on it, because in a way, there goes my paycheck. So I've got to worry about that. And the artistic side of things, virtually the entire design of like the stuff on the website that you see, the pages, all my icons, my photographs, all that stuff, that's all stuff that I did, part of the brand. So those things have helped me. Those skills have all kind of culminated and come together for all the things that I've done in my life, artistically, musically, or whatever, have come together into what is now Eric the Car Guy. So yes, indeed, that skill set was invaluable into the creation of the program that you're watching today. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? This one's from Cardog, or Cardoog, D-O-O-G. Not sure how to say that, Cardog. What computer do you have to make the video editing? What type of video camera do you use? How long does it take to make the compilation to the final video? What programs do you use? How long did it take you to master them? Virtually these questions have already been answered in 2 videos. One I did on my production equipment and one I did on my post-production equipment. So I'm going to post links in the description to both of those videos to give you specifics on that. But one question that is not answered in there is how long does it take? Well, that really depends on the video. Mostly my schedule is I come in on Thursdays normally and I do whatever work that it is I'm going to do and do all my shooting. Then I take it home and I load the stuff into the computer, into that drill bro thing that you'll see in the post-production video. I load the stuff into that and I get all the sequences and everything ready inside of the software for Saturday. And I usually spend the entire day Saturday editing the following week's videos. So that's usually how that plays out. So turnaround time is a week for all 3 videos normally. Actually, those 2-part videos work out well for me because I edit one video and I split it up over the entire week, and that sort of gives me a week buffer zone. So it does take a great deal of effort to try and get these things together. As far as how long it took me to master that software, I've actually been working in video now for the better part of, let's see, I was under the impression that I've been working in video for about 10 years. Aside from all that, I've been working in video production for some time. I've even taught some classes in Final Cut with some of the local groups that I've been a part of. So I'm no stranger to the editing software and how it works. In fact, I might even argue that in some ways I know as much about video editing and that stuff as I do about auto repair. And those two things come together once again into that skill set that's created Eric the Car Guy. It's hard to, it's jack of all trades, master of none comes to mind. Twiggy02919 asks, what's in your iPod for music? Good question. I have a rather eclectic taste in music, or at least I'd like to think so. So I'll just run through some of the playlists here. I have some of these. I'm going to skip over some. I'm not going to read every single one because there's a lot of music here. But ABBA, AC/DC, Adele, All That Remains, America, Ass Ponies, Atmosphere. I love Atmosphere. Bauhaus, Beck, the Bee Gees, Beanie Man, Bjork, Black Alicious, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, Bryan Adams, Bubba Sparks. I really like Bubba Sparks, by the way. Cake, Cat Stevens, Chamillionaire, Cheap Trick, Chris Isaac, Cinderella, Cottonmouth Kings, Counting Crows, Crash Test Dummies, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Crystal Castles. I'm really into Crystal Castles right now. I'm kind of digging them. Danger Doom, also cool. Danzig, David Gray, Deftones, Depeche Modes, Death Clock. Yeah, Death Clock's cool. Dixie Chicks, Don Henley, Duran Duran, Eazy-E. Come on, Eazy-E. It's classic. Elvis, of course I've got Elvis. Enya, Evanescence, Fatboy Slim, Fear Factory, Fleetwood Mac, Frank Sinatra, George Clinton, Ghostface Killah, Gorillaz. I like the Gorillaz. Gorillaz are cool. Gorilla Black, Guns N' Roses, Hayseed Dixie, Human League. My stuff is under Ick. If you read my bio, I used to be called Ick. Jax Johnson, Janis Joplin, Jeff Buckley, Jimmy Buffett, Jimi Hendrix, John Cougar, Jurassic 5, Kanye West. I like Kanye West. Led Zeppelin, Lemon Jelly, Lenny Kravitz, Lilifee. I like Lilifee. Linkin Park, Lou Reed, Louise Burns. I've been really into Canadian music. I listen a lot to CBC3 on the internet. I also listen to Pheno radio. So I go north and south of the border to listen to my music mostly when I'm working. Massive Attack, Matchbox 20, Mazzy Star, Men at Work, Metallica, Method Man, MGMT, Michael Bublé, Mindless Self-Indulgence, Misfits. Love the Misfits. Morcheeba, Mos Def, Motley Crue, Nappy Roots, Neil Diamond, Neil Young, Nickelback, Nicki Minaj. Yes, I do like Nicki Minaj. Why? Because I bees in the trap. Outkast. Love Outkast. Panic at the Disco, Pantera, Pat Benatar, Percy Faith, Portishead, Pissing Razors, Prodigy, Queen, Queens of the Stone Age, Radiohead. I like Radiohead. I like smart music that has stuff there. Sonic Youth, Southern Culture on the Skids, Steve Miller Band, Stevie Wonder, Twi'lek Kweli, Taproot, Tears for Fears, Tesla, The Animals, the Beastie Boys, the Beatles, Beta Band, the Black Keys, the Bravery, the Byrds, the Cardigans, the Clash, the Commodores, the Cure, the Damned, the Dead Milkmen, the Doors, the Eagles, Flaming Lips, the Police, the Rolling Stones, of course, the Roots, the Sound of Music soundtrack, the Squirrel Nut Zippers, the Strokes, the White Stripes, the Who, the XX, Todd Snyder, Tools, Travis, Typo Negative. I like Typo Negative. White Zombie, also like White Zombie. Willie Nelson, Yazoo, ZZ Top, and then I've got some other playlists of, like I said, the Canadian music and Mexican music. So there you go. I like to be exposed to lots of different music. Spect, ask, how do you find working in yellow tinted glasses compared to plain old eyeballs? What's your favorite car you've owned and why? Not really technical related, but does it count? As far as these glasses, Amber Vision, I got kind of a Walter Solcheck thing going on with them, and I don't mind, because I don't know, it's just, I feel sunny and happy when I'm wearing amber glasses, and things seem a little crisper and clearer to these getting older eyes. So I prefer that. Also, just having safety glasses on, and in fact I just cut open a torque converter and I was really happy to have them on there. As far as the favorite car I've owned, that's a really good question, because there have been a lot that I've owned. In fact, I mean, that's one of the things that inspired me to do this. But the first car I fell in love with was my 72 Galaxy 500 with a 351 Windsor. I love that car. And yeah, she's big and not a race car or anything like that, but just something about like those older 70s cars, or just older cars in general. I've had the privilege of working on some really old cool stuff, and they have a soul to them, you know. There's no way you could have them new ever again. So they've sort of like picked up the whatever it is from past owners, and you know, there's like this residual self-image, if you want to call it that happens inside a vehicle. And for me, it was that 72 Galaxy. Loved it. And I ended up owning 3 of those, I think. Yeah, I ended up owning 3 of them. The last one was the one in the Day With My Brother video, where I take that out for the last time with him. And that was kind of sad. So I do miss that car, but I don't know if I'd get that one again. I think I might look for like a 69 Mercury, or I love 69 Camaros. I love late 60s stuff. That's kind of the thing. I think I might go for something smaller that's actually fast this time. I really don't know. Semen Staffic, I'm not really sure how to say that name, sorry. What is your favorite place to go on vacation, and have you ever been to Europe, or are you planning to do so in the near future? Vacation? What's that? I only recently started taking vacations, and quite literally the last vacation I took was last year, but before that, the last vacation that I took was in like May of 2001. So there was like a 10-year stint, didn't have a vacation. There was always something coming up, death in the family, kids being born, trips to the hospital, all kinds of stuff kept coming up that ate into any off time. And so, you know, it just was a never-ending stream of work that, you know, there was times where I didn't work so much where it felt like a vacation. So vacations are not something that I spend a lot of time doing. But as far as where I like to go, I usually like to spend it with my family, you know, wherever it is where we end up. I actually really like hanging out with them. So I usually like doing something with them. As far as the place, wherever they're at. Have you ever been to Europe? No, I have not. Are you planning to go in the near future? I'd love to. I really would. You know, if I could swing something like that and have like a European meetup or something, don't know where I'd end up, but lots of people that have gone to Europe tell me that Germany's awesome. To go to Germany. I've always wanted to go to England. There's a whole Top Gear thing, like, you know, I'll ever get on that, but you know, hey, you never know. But yeah, just so much history there, so many interesting things. I mean, so many countries to visit, all compacted into one place. So yeah, it's definitely of interest, but as far as anything actually planned in the near future, not really. Jcrafic, JCIRAFIC, Jcrafic, I don't know. What is your favorite genre of music? Also, are you still thinking about going vegetarian? I am mostly vegetarian to keep cholesterol down. You know what? At my age, I'm 42 now. I've got to say, yeah, keeping cholesterol down is probably the main reason that I try to go mostly veggie. I'm not 100% veggie, and I don't really see myself doing that, but it's been a really long time since I've had a steak. But I do have the occasional cheeseburger, like maybe once a month or something like that, so I can't really call myself a vegetarian, but what happens is you become like a carbitarian once you stop like cutting out like red meats and things like that, and I start eating more breads and all that stuff, and I've got kind of a sweet tooth too, so I could really use cutting down on a lot of those things and eating more vegetables and eating less of things, that's for sure. So I am aware. Heinz, H-E-Z, if you ever got approached for doing a TV show, would you turn the offer down? I've actually been approached about TV 3 times now. The first time they started talking and started, you know, this whole momentum thing going, and then they just stopped calling back, stopped returning emails and phone calls. The second time, what was the second time? The second time was just like sort of feeling out for interest and that kind of thing. Once again, ended in not really returning phone calls and that kind of thing. And then the third time is something that's come up that I don't know. And one of the things that irks me about dealing with TV people is they're very busy people, so they do tend to like answer you by not answering you, which kind of gets under my skin a little bit. Like if you're expecting to hear from somebody and you don't hear from somebody, and you know they say they're going to call and they don't. Here's the thing: as far as the show that I'm doing now that you've grown to know and love, it doesn't translate to television. It just doesn't. So in other words, if I did do television, I'd have to do something else. And that something else is a really hard mold to fit things in. I've actually worked in television production and film production and things like that in addition to doing Eric the Car Guy. And I know that it's a lot of effort from a lot of people, and it's a lot of luck that makes something like a television program come together and actually work. So as far as finding a way to translate what I'm doing as Eric the Car Guy into television, that's a tough nut to crack, because let's face it, networks are only gonna invest in things that they know they're gonna see a return on. So if they look at Eric the Car Guy and they think, okay, well there's an 18 to 55 audience, male audience that we can exploit. Because basically that's what they're doing. They're looking to find something that you're gonna watch in between commercials, because basically those commercials pay for the show and the network and everything else. So this is how the world of entertainment works. And to try to, you know, everybody's got a show idea, everybody's got a script idea, that kind of thing, but I'm not really like that. And the main reason is because Eric the Car Guy, I think, is successful on its own as a web show. And I think, at least in my mind, I would like to see it continue to develop as a web show. As far as television, there have been some really great ideas passed around. Now, whether or not those ideas can actually take hold in a network somewhere and somebody says, hey, we want that guy, I don't know if that'll happen. But I want you to consider something as a viewer of Eric the Car Guy. If I were to take on television, there's no way I'd be able to do 3 shows a week anymore. I would have to take a significant amount of time off, maybe 3 months or so, in order to do the shooting for the television show. You know, go on that hiatus and then come back and get into what I'm doing. And then there's the whole, you know, possible conflict of interest thing. If a television show is trying to exploit me on the web and I already have my own web thing going, there's that to be considered. So there's a lot of things to be considered as far as Eric the Car Guy and television are concerned. But as far as where I am now, I feel like at least my income is in a nice, happy place to where I'm able to keep the show going. I'm able to pay the rent, keep the lights on, that kind of thing. And I'm able to continue doing the show. And for me, I want to continue doing the show. As far as television, it would have to be something to add value to what I'm already doing. I would hate to put myself in a position to where I have to change what I'm doing in order to conform to television. Now, don't get me wrong, being on television would be great, because that would give me exposure to a lot more people, and exposure to a lot more people means ultimately a better paycheck for me. So I hope that answers that question for you. Celtic Bohoy, do you follow any professional sports teams? Favorite movie, book, band? Ooh, that's a lot of questions. I'm not really a sports person, but that was a heck of a Super Bowl, wasn't it? Oh man, lights went out and everything. That was crazy. I do watch things like the Super Bowl, and not just for the commercials. I actually, as a videographer, followed some sports teams around and followed players around through their seasons and things like that. So I've got a feel for sports. I just never really felt invested in them. I guess I'm kind of a technical guy, and that's just where I've ended up. So I don't have any teams or anything that I follow, but as far as the Super Bowl, I like purple. I was rooting for the purple. And luckily, purple won. Luckily, they almost lost. But yeah, if that gives you any kind of perspective. As far as favorite movie, that's tough, because I really am kind of a movie buff. In fact, that's what kind of got me into this. If you read my bio over at the website, I actually wanted to get into special effects, makeup, and things like that. So you'd think that my favorite movies are like horror movies, and I do have like classic horror movies that I love. But as far as favorite movies, I love a good story, and I love a well-executed story, and you can really tell. And I love the Coen brothers. The Coen brothers, I really, you know, the fact that they write, they direct, and They really know how to craft a film. And actually one of my favorite films of all time has got to be The Big Lebowski. And I just did the Walter Sobchak reference earlier, but one of the main reasons for that is it's got so many different film genres all rolled up into one. It's really a film noir film, and it's such a characterization of California. And I've been to California, and it's just those people seem very Californian to me, that whole setting. In fact, I tried to find the bowling alley when I went there, and apparently that's been torn down and that's gone. So I wasn't able to find that, but I did really think that was a great movie. But there are lots of great movies on my great movie list. I love Monty Python's Meaning of Life, except for that whole Terry Gilliam part, that Crimson Permanent Assurance thing that he went off and did his own movie, whatever. But the rest of that movie just cracks me up. As far as books go, I could go on about movies, so I'm just gonna cut myself there. As far as books go, I like Tom Robbins. I've always liked his writing. One of my favorites was Fierce Invalids Home from Hot Climates. I like that book quite a bit. As far as a favorite band, wow, that's hard. That's hard because that changes depending upon where I'm at, and it's hard to say now. It's hard to say. I read through my iPod to figure it out from there. As far as what my favorite is, that's a tough call. Trovato asked the question, I'd also be interested in knowing more about how your current business works. Are you open for the general public to just come in and ask for a brake job or something? I noticed that most of the cars you work on seem to belong to you and people you know well. That's a good question. This is not a repair facility. It's not run like a repair facility. It is a production studio. So I don't work as a technician on a daily basis. Pretty much Eric the Car Guy and the stuff that happens with Eric the Car Guy consumes my every waking moment. I finally got to a point where I can do a 6-day work week instead of a 7-day work week. Really happy about that. No, I don't take on new customers. I've had people ask, and I pretty much turn them away. And there's a couple of reasons for that, because it's hard for me to have people that aren't necessarily friends or whatever. But if I started running my shop like a repair shop, I'd have to structure it with taxes and everything else, and I just don't want to do that. So now I just work on my friends' cars and my cars and just basically have them pay for parts. And that just works out way better for me. I don't have to worry about my taxes or any of that kind of stuff. It's all production cost. So in essence, the way my business works, my business is Eric the Car Guy, and that's what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on it being a repair business. This is the other reason why it's hard for me to justify something like a lift. That's a significant expense for something that's not going to get used a whole lot. So that might give you a little more insight into that. Music Lover 2000. If I'm right, I think you mentioned before you play guitar. I play myself. How long have you played, and what do you enjoy playing? I think I've mentioned this somewhere in the past. I play guitar more as a hobby than anything else. I played a lot when I was younger, and basically that was to attract the attention of girls. It worked, and I was happy for it. As far as the last time I actually picked up my guitar, it was months ago. I don't play on a regular basis at all. I just, every once in a while the mood will strike me, I'll sit down, I'll play a little bit. I have a Yamaha 12 string I'm very partial to. You might have heard that in some of my productions. I always like playing a 12 string, but it's pretty hard on the fingers, as you know. And 12 strings, over time, the action gets kind of stiff, and if you haven't played in a while and then you pick up the 12 string and start to play, it's kind of brutal. So I've also got it's an Ibanez. I've got an Ibanez electric that I play sometimes also. And that's got some really nice tones for a mid-level guitar, not being a Gibson or a Fender. But for what I paid for that guitar, it was only $300 or something like that, and it actually sounds pretty darn good. And I can do a lot with it. It's got 3 sets of pickups and everything else. So, I don't consider myself a guitar player. But as far as that dexterity in my left hand from learning how to play guitar and playing that 12 string, it really helps as an auto mechanic, because it's allowed me to get into tight locations and things like that, and having that dexterity has been a benefit. So in fact, some people call me Mr. Nimble Fingers because of that. Joe's Way or No Way asked, I too would like to know about the vegetarian thing. I have been for years now. It doesn't seem like the manly thing nowadays, but I don't care. my brain works better, and I can train harder in the gym. And you know what? The people that I know that go vegetarian and do that, they usually have like really great skin and complexions, and they usually are much healthier. There's something to be said for it, but once again, I'm not 100% vegetarian. I'm not a person who's like super health conscious or anything like that. I'm just getting older, trying to watch my weight, trying to stay healthy. Yo-Yo asked, how about what type of camera do you use, and do you have more than one? Once again, please refer to the links in the description to the video on production for that one, and also post-production. 10 Nico, or 10 Nico, I'm not sure how to say it. If I were Oprah, I'd ask, how tall are you, Eric? I am 6'2", and probably getting shorter. And also, what is your favorite beer? Well, to be honest, I'm not really much of a beer drinker, but I have taken a liking to that Bud Light Ultra stuff in those blue bottles, because I actually like the color. And one of those really cold goes down nice with some of my hot vegetarian chili. But what I like to drink when I drink is I like to drink Maker's Mark whiskey. I really like that. So I'm not much of a beer drinker, more of a whiskey drinker, more of a hard liquor drinker. And something very loosely automotive rated. If Dr. Emmett Brown happened to bring the DeLorean time machine to your shop to fix something, would you try time travel while he's gone away? And if so, what particular time would you go to? Good question. You should be Oprah. What particular time period would I take the time machine to? Well, actually there's a couple of time periods that I'd love to see. Victorian era for one, and basically because of that whole industrial revolution thing that was happening, like Victorian Europe, like steam powers, like a steampunk kind of thing. I think that would be way cool to see those machines when they were like crafted. They weren't manufactured so much. I mean, these machines were crafted from like a piece of paper on a drawing board into, you know, some wonderful thing. But then I'd be torn, because I'd want to see the distant future. I'd want to know what the future holds. So it would be really, you know, if I were to go back into the past, I would say Victorian era. If I were to go into the future, I would probably head into the future about 50 years to see how things turn out. Because by that time I would probably have expired, so it would be good to know. And another part to that question, and in between these two careers, would you prefer to become a teacher or comedian? Good question again. I don't know. I would want to do both. I would want to do, okay, I'd want to be a teacher that moonlights as a comedian. How's that? That way I could have the day job and the paycheck and health insurance and all that kind of thing, but then I could live as, you know, the comedian on that other life, and maybe try to have some crossover between the two. Because I think making people laugh is a powerful thing, and I really do have respect for even the most potty mouth comedians, because I know how difficult it is to get up in front of a crowd of people and expose yourself in such a way. So yeah, and live long and prosper and stay dirty. Uncle Ben, thank you for having a name I can pronounce. Just out of curiosity, I am also wondering if you take walk-in customers, or do you only do work on your friends and family's cars? And do you also take referral customers? Seems like you are probably too busy to take on a full client base and still keep up with ETCG. Covered that earlier, but yes, that's exactly right. It's ETCG is what I do. And then Jeffrey, again, I think, if everything worked out ideally, what would you see yourself doing, or would you like to see yourself doing in 10 years? Would it be more like Jay Leno's Garage, or something completely different? Also, fantastic question. I've always had a vision for Eric the Car Guy. I'd always hoped it would be successful. As far as where I would like to see it in 10 years, I'd like to see myself still doing Eric the Car Guy in 10 years. And I'd like it to be, well, as much of a household name as it can be, in the sense to be known for helping people with automotive issues. And I've also been an advocate of automotive education. For me, it brought me out of a very difficult time in my life. Basically gave me an income so I could start paying my child support and, you know, avoid staying out of jail, and avoid jail. And also have, the mantra was, while I was in school the whole time, I wanted to have steak and beer in my fridge at all times. Now, we talked about the vegetarian thing. I can have steak in my fridge, but I don't. And as far as the beer, not being a beer drinker, well, yeah, but the point was, is I wanted to get to that point, and I got there through my automotive education. In addition, that automotive education brought me here to you today as Eric the Car Guy. Actually, much of what I quote unquote put into my videos and quote unquote teach you is remnants of what I learned in school. I either take it off my notes or the stuff that I remembered and add in a little bit of my experience along the way. So I would like to see Eric the Car Guy meet the next level. Now, whether or not that's television or not, I don't know. But even without television, and I'm not counting that as part of the equation of my future because I'm not going to hold on to that. What I would like to see is I'd like to see the web show grow into, you know, something that is significant. And if I'm going to have my way before I'm said and done, I would love to be at a place to where there's an Eric the Car Guy scholarship out there. Because I'm absolutely serious when I say that I'm a proponent of automotive education and automotive technicians. I'd like to see, you know, if there's some kind of pull or some kind of sway that I could have to maybe have some kind of effect on the industry as far as the flat rate system, things like that. If nothing else, just advocacy, just bringing attention of the general public that does not work on vehicles, that's not necessarily mechanically inclined, and sort of bring to light the kind of things that people deal with as automotive technicians. Because let's face it, over the past few years, we're working a lot more, we're working harder for a lot less. Labor times get cut, warranty times are a joke. And just to try to make a living as a technician is very difficult. You've got a huge investment in tools. We've talked about this in other ETCG1 videos. Huge investment in tools, huge investment in education, and very little payoff at the end. And you're not necessarily considered to be someone who is a valued member of society, like say if you went to school to be a doctor. So I'd like to change that. I'd like to change the face of what an automotive technician is, and, you know, if possible, help those people that were in similar situations to myself and were completely flat broke, needed a career, needed something. Automotive education was the key for me and pretty much brought me up and made me a better person in the end. TinyDX95T2, how you doing, man? Eric, I'm wondering if you prefer one part supplier over another and why. I have a local parts supplier that supplies virtually all the parts that I get. And the reason why is because of Brian. Brian's my parts guy. And we have a relationship. I call him up, we shoot the breeze for a little while, and then we start talking about the parts that I need. And then if he can get them for me that day, and, you know, what have you. So I like relationships with the people that I do business with. But I've also gotten parts from online sources. Some things are difficult to get, or some things are like, if I want an OE part, a lot of times it's cheaper online, that kind of thing. So there's a lot that goes into that question, but mostly I like the relationships that I have with local vendors. I try to support local businesses whenever possible, because, you know, I'm a small business owner myself, so I'm kind of in that frame of mind. Plus, like I said, I get along with Brian. I like Brian. So Brian's where I get my parts. Noah Mini, and this explains the question. Would you drive a classic Mini? Heck yeah, those are cool little cars. I'd drive the heck out of one of those things. I mean, I would burn the tires off of one of those cars. I like little cars. Little fast cars are fun, and a Mini definitely fits that bill. So heck yeah, I'd drive a Mini. And last question, are you related to Mike Rowe? No, I'm not related to Mike Rowe, nor am I related to George Clooney. You should do some project with him, both being equally spoken blue-collar philosophers. Ooh, thank you. And that's from Who, 1981. Honestly, Mike Rowe is one of my idols, one of my heroes, one of those people I look to with the whole Eric the Car Guy thing. Stay Dirty is part of that. It's more of a philosophy kind of thing. And yeah, blue-collar philosopher, I think that kind of fits. I mean, and I'm actually honored that you made the comparison between the two of us, because I don't necessarily, well, okay, idolize might be too strong a word about Mike Rowe, but if you read up on his career and you know anything about where he's come from and like that, and how he's built the career that he's built and what he's done over at Discovery, it's definitely something to be admired. It's definitely impressive. And actually, one of my favorite things from him was his testimony to Congress. That was fantastic, and you know what? I'll see if I can find that and put a link to that in the description, because that's inspirational to watch, I think. So I'm flattered that you've made the comparison between me and Mike Rowe. But you know, hey, if he ever came knocking on the door, I would definitely answer. Let's put it that way, because I mean he's done a fantastic body of work, and also started out believe it or not, Mike Rowe started out on QVC. It's kind of funny to think about, and he did it as a joke. In fact, I think he was fired from QVC for not taking the job very seriously, but still, that's where Mike Rowe got to start. That was the last question, and ooh, we ran this one long, so if you've stuck it out for this amount of time, thank you very much. I call you my 10 percenters, you ETCG1 people, because if you look at the subscriber base of ETCG1 and Eric the Car Guy, it's roughly 10%. So you're my 10 percenters. So thank you for watching, and I hope I answered your questions. I'll do another one of these maybe next year or something like that. It's just, you know, we'll see where it goes. Anyway, I am Eric the Car Guy. I'm not going to go through that whole thing about if you have automotive questions. Just, you can find me at ericthecarguy.com, Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. And I close with be safe, have fun, and of course, stay dirty. I'll see you next time.